Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to ITW Presents Vista 2020, the International Business Summit of IIM Bangalore. This session is presented to you by ITW Consulting Private Limited, one of the leading consulting and management companies in India, as our title sponsor for Vista 2020. ITW Consulting has been named among the top 6 sports marketing companies in Asia. ITW specializes in crafting and executing multifaceted brand management solutions and celebrity management across a vast number of areas: sports, entertainment, and media. The theme for Vista 2020 is Portraits of Progress. Vista aims to stimulate conversation towards the ever changing environments and disruptions across different fields, how leaders can strategize and synergize efforts to remain pioneers in their respective fields. It is important to remember that in this constant challenge to move ahead, we should not lose sight of our true purpose. Vista exemplifies IIM Bangalore's commitment to excellence and the ardent pursuit of the IMB family to serve as a beacon of light for the leaders of tomorrow. So, no other session could have been more apt than a panel discussion on conscious capitalism to end Vista 2020. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome our distinguished guests for today. Our first guest for today is Mr. Ajay Piramal. Mr. Piramal is one of India's leading industrialists and philanthropists and the chairman of the Piramal Group. The Piramal Group is a global business conglomerate with diverse interests in pharmaceuticals, financial services, real estate, and glass packaging, with offices in 30 countries, and its products are sold in more than 100 markets. A firm believer in the tenets of the Bhagavad Gita, Mr. Piramal is a passionate advocate of trusteeship and responsible business ethos. During the unprecedented COVID 19 pandemic, Mr. Piramal made significant contributions to various government and local bodies and provided 27 million meals to the underprivileged and underserved communities across India via several foundations, including Anamrita and ATE Chandra. We're very happy to have you with us here today, sir. Our next guest is His Holiness Radhanath Swami, a New York best times a New York best-selling author, philanthropist, and speaker. His work of feeding 300,000 children per day in India and establishing several philanthropic projects has led him to meetings with the former US President Barack Obama, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as well as former UK Prime Ministers Tony Blair and David Cameron. He is the founder of Govardhan Eco Village, which is a 100-acre sustainable community just outside Mumbai, India. This eco village is a model which is equipped to combat some of the world's largest issues, including climate change, poverty, access to healthcare, and other UN Sustainable Development Goals, as well as being a health and yoga resort. Radhanath Swami was also the founder of a hospital, an orphanage, a school, and many other philanthropic projects. Our next guest today is Dr. Vivek Bindra, a human performance improvement pioneer who helps in driving business results through performance effectiveness. Dr. Bindra is the founder and CEO of one of South Asia's largest and most progressive organizations, Bada Business Private Limited, formerly known as Global ACT. Apart from being just the owner of the world's most subscribed entrepreneurship YouTube channel with 13.7 million subscribers and 850 million viewers, Dr. Bindra is a distinguished motivational speaker and an inspirational business coach. A monk turned entrepreneur who is working on a bigger horizon to bring an improvement in India's GDP by closely working with a number of billionaire entrepreneurs and making entrepreneurship education and business training programs which are affordable, accessible, and available. He has authored 10 high power motivational books and now working on his new book, Bounce Back. Our last guest for today is Mr. Rahul Singh. A banker by day and writer by night, Mr. Singh is an expert at connecting the three I's: ideas, insights, and individuals. A full scholarship holder for the undergraduate studies at NTU Singapore and an MBA from IIM Bangalore, Rahul is the youngest ever secretary for the IMB Alumni Association Singapore and serves as a principal corporate advisory group at IIM Udaipur. He has advised several IIMs on their international strategy and has been solicited by India's Planning Commission, Niti Aayog, on various projects. He enjoys meeting people, building communities, and mentoring. His strategy case studies have been published by McGraw-Hill in an MBA textbook used by many American B schools. He is the author of You Know the Glory, Not the Story 25 Journeys Towards Ikigai, and his Demystifying Bhagavad Gita for Engineers and MBAs is under publishing. We also welcome Professor Padmini Srinivasan, PGP Chair, to say a few words.
Thank you, Ashna, for the introduction. I think we have a very distinguished panel today. Thank you for taking time out, Swamiji, Mr. Ajay Piramal, Dr. Vivek Bindra. Thank you so much for addressing our gathering. From freedmen to freemen, we are always grappling between capitalism and socialism and somewhere in between. I think this topic is very, very relevant in today's time. Thank you so much for taking time out, and Rahul for arranging this event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We now hand it over to Mr. Rahul Singh, the moderator for today's panel discussion, to begin this session.
Thank you, Ashna. It is my pleasure to be hosting this. And why don't I begin with Radhanath Swami Maharaj? The topic is conscious capitalism. And I know that your entire life has been about consciousness and how it can be brought to business. So why don't you tell us something about this topic, about conscious capitalism? So over to you, Radhanath Swami Maharaj.
Om Agyan Timidandasya Gyananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I am truly honored and grateful and happy to be with all of you today. Conscious capitalism, I can give you my understanding of the very essence in 2 lines. Earn with integrity and spend with compassion. Whatever social system there may be, it really is only as effective to helping individuals in society according to the character of the people who are taking responsibilities within that system. Within capitalism, people are given such freedom to earn, to invest, to form corporations, private ownerships, and whatever. And wherever there's success, there's power. And we find that the downfall of capitalism from a moral and ethical perspective is when we're consumed by greed and arrogance. It is a human vulnerability that the more we have, the more we become proud and the more we feel that we have rights over others, including the environment itself. I have the right to to pollute or exploit according to whatever is best for my profits, my prestige, and my particular position. And this is creating so much suffering and pain in the world. Capitalism really is a beautiful way of living when we're conscious. Conscious means to be aware, to be aware of higher principles than just my own ego and selfishness. In reality, everything within creation is connected. And these are moral, ethical, and spiritual principles. If we build our life on the foundation of these principles, then we can truly have a meaningful and valuable life and a great contribution to the world. That we are not the proprietors of what we have, but in a higher sense, we are caretakers. Proprietorship means we have total control. But ultimately, at the time of death, everything is taken away. And in this life, so many things could happen too. So whatever skills, intelligence, whatever wealth and resources, whatever influence over others, it's entrusted to us. And character is to have a grateful heart, to be grateful to where everything is coming from. Factually, it's the people, or we may say the customers of this world that are making me what I am. We should feel responsible and grateful to each and every one of them. Employees, employers, we're all interactive, and a sense of respect and gratitude is very, very important. And the environment, the sun, the air, the water, and all the resources that we are utilizing are all coming from nature. To be grateful and have a responsibility to respect nature. Everything is connected, and everyone is connected. In the Bible, it is said that the great commandment is to learn to love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And the Srimad Bhagavatam gives a very beautiful analogy which says the same thing, that if you water the root of the tree, then every part of the tree is nourished. So similarly, when we make this spiritual principle that the origin of everything and everyone is the same, and when we live in harmony with the grace of God, then naturally we will feel compassion for all living beings. The Gita tells, Yad yadacharati strestas tatar evetarojana, that what leaders do becomes the standard for the rest of the world. Those of you who are in college or university, those of you who are teaching within college and university, you are the future leaders of the world. And we need leaders who are equipped with the tools to really succeed, whether it's technology or business and management understandings and techniques, whether it's science. We learn so much. What's important is the values we have when we use them. A knife in the hands of a thief will kill someone. The same knife in the hands of a surgeon will save a person's life. So our values and our character is really who we are. There's a saying, if you lose your money, you lose nothing. If you lose your health, you lose something. If you lose your character, you've lost everything. And it's this understanding that we need to embody, share with our children when we have children, the value of character. When there is character, there's respect, there's compassion, and there's also a sense of the unity and the oneness that pervades all of our lives in the sense that we're all interconnected. And when we live in this spirit, then it's conscious capitalism. Whatever we may be doing and however we may be earning and however we may be facing the challenges and the tests of life, we're doing it with an awareness that I must live with integrity. I must earn in an honest way without unnecessarily causing harm to others. And with what I have, it is a truth that in giving we receive. When we actually utilize what we have in a spirit of compassion to uplift others, it gives the greatest meaning and purpose to our careers. It gives the greatest fulfillment to life. To be conscious that we are all brothers and sisters. We all share the same environment. And in this spirit, to, as said, earn with character and to spend with compassion. The greatest need in the world is not just money and technology. It's not just environmental changes. The greatest need in the world is for people to value human compassion. Because when that is there, then everything else becomes a positive, auspicious contribution to humanity and to the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Swamiji, for that opening address on what conscious capitalism is. And you very beautifully touched upon what conscious part of that conscious capitalism is. And now I would move on to Ajay Piramal ji. Ajay Piramal ji, you are a philanthropist and also you happen to be a billionaire. And who better to ask what capitalism is than you? What is capitalism and what does it mean to you?
I want to begin by just talking a little bit about the concept of what is a trustee. If you look at trusts, there are four elements which are important in any trust. One is there's a settler. A settler is somebody who begins the trust or who puts the first assets into a trust. Then the trust itself is there. Then there is people who manage the trust or the trustees. And the fourth people are the beneficiaries. So when you talk about capitalism and when you talk about conscious capitalism, it really means that the capital which has been developed or built by the capitalists is actually a capital which should be part of a trust. And as a capitalist or as you are a trustee of that. What is the role of a trustee is important. A role of a trustee is that somebody who works for the benefit of the beneficiaries without having any personal interest in it. So therefore, I look at every capitalist as a trustee. And who are the beneficiaries? Yes, the beneficiaries are the shareholders, so they have to do everything, the trustee has to do everything in the interest of the shareholders. The other beneficiaries is the employees, so they have to do everything in the interest of the employees. The third is the customer. and the fourth is society. So what is the role of a trustee, or what is the role of somebody who has built capital? Is to act like a trustee for the benefit of shareholders, of society, of their employees, and of their customers. So if we understand that role, I think that's important. And therefore, the importance of capitalism is also important, because had it not been for capitalism, or had it not been for the capital being created, there would not have been, you could not distribute the wealth to any beneficiary. So therefore, it is not that capitalism is not good. It is the right way, is the conscious capitalism, your title. Therefore, it's very important to recognize that even if you have to do good in the world, what you need to have is to see that capitalism is run well, consciously. As Swamiji said, you cannot just do it on greed. It must be on a larger purpose. Or as Gandhiji said, that one of the deadly sins is that you have commerce without morality. But on the other hand, it is important that, in fact, capital is the oxygen for also doing good. If you do not make capital, you cannot do good. So I think that's what we need to recognize, that we have to do well in creating wealth, and it has to be done it in the right manner, and then it has to be shared with all the people concerned. And that is, I think, as I look at capitalism and conscious capitalism.
Thank you so much. Very nicely summed it up that capital is the oxygen for doing good. And Swamiji was talking about proprietor versus caretaker mindset. And you kind of reflected the same by saying ownership versus trustee mindset. Now I'll move on to Dr. Bindra. Dr. Bindra, I suppose you're still around with us. So the question to you is, your company is called Bada Business. And
Rahul, sorry to interrupt. Mr. Dr. Bindra is facing some audio issue.
Right.
Yeah, you can go with the next question. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So Ajayji, why don't we continue this? So let's talk about capitalism. And the question to you is capitalism, which you called oxygen for doing good, is everybody getting the same amount of oxygen, or some people are gulping more than their fair share of oxygen? What I mean by that is, if today I were to start a business, do I get a level playing field in capitalism? Is there a concentration of wealth that is happening within capitalism?
I think the world is showing increasingly that people who have had, there has been, it's a level playing field in many parts now. Even in India, you see all the people who have started, young entrepreneurs have created significant amount of wealth. In the US, I don't think any of the people who've created huge empires there, whether it is all the tech companies and so much else, have started with really actually pretty average background. So you cannot say that it is a privilege. I'm sure there must be many alumni of Bangalore, IIM, who have also done business on their own. So it really depends. Yeah, some people do get an advantage, it's not there, but it doesn't mean that that's the only one. If somebody has the entrepreneurship and the drive to do things and is innovative enough, willing to take risks, then you can be successful in without much capital.
Right.
And Bangalore is the heart of all the new emerging companies. I can see how many companies coming up, and the unicorns. These are not people who had some some privileged backgrounds.
Yeah, while that is true, but we also see that the top 8 people in the world have more wealth than the half of the world's population. And if I extend that to India, 9 people in India have more wealth than 50% of India's population. So isn't that capitalism taken too far? Is there a balance that's needed there?
So, frankly, there is a bit of concern that I have on a global basis as well. When you see that the difference that in the last couple of decades, the value of the capital, the value of many companies has gone up much higher than, and therefore the shareholders, and especially the main shareholders, have created much more wealth than what the average person has. And therefore, some way or the other, I feel that this is going to be a amount of stress in the future, and some solutions will have to be found.
Sure, sure. So, Swamiji, the topic is conscious capitalism. From your point of view, do you view it as an oxymoron, or it's totally fine to have a topic like conscious and capitalism and put them into one phrase? Essentially, what I'm trying to ask you is it possible to do good and to do well?
It is a very essential topic that needs to be discussed and explored deeper and deeper. Conscious capitalism are two words that really require to be harmonized. As I spoke previously, to be conscious, to be aware. The Bhagavad Gita was spoken in a situation which was a great crisis. It was a battlefield. And within that context, Krishna taught the world how to perform our duty, whatever that duty may be, in an enlightened state. And Ajay Piramal, I know him very well for so many years. He's an example of this. And he's gone through so many challenges and so many struggles and so many tremendous successes. But yet, the very foundation of his life is his devotion, his character, and his eagerness to live with compassion. It's not a problem at all. In fact, it's wonderful if a person accumulates more and more and more, if with what we have, we're actually making a positive difference within the world.
Sure, sure. So Dr. Bindra, so you're back with us. Swamiji talked about conscious part of conscious capitalism, and Ajay Piramal ji told us more about what capitalism is and what it ought to be. The question to you is, your company is called Bada Business, and when I was in the university, I came across this phrase by Milton Friedman, who is an economics Nobel Prize winner in 1976. And the phrase is, the business of business is business. Now you are calling your company Bada Business. तो आपसे समझना चाहता हूँ कि आप ऐसा क्या है जो बताते हैं अपने ऑडियंस को about बड़ा business? ऐसा क्या है जो अभी business का जो formula था, which is business of business is doing business, is it still valid, or there is more to it than it was in the past?
Thank you very much. As an identity, I'm a Hindi speaker. Can you hear me now? Because I faced certain issues here. Can you hear me now? Rahul, if you can nod your head.
You are audible.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So as an identity, I'm a Hindi speaker, so I might switch to Hindi in between. But while giving the respect to the platform, I'll try to be a little bit more in English. Normally, so your question was the business of doing business is business, and business of business is doing business. So basically, abhi fundamentals business ke are a little more evolved around consciousness, and today's topic is also conscious capitalism. Like His Holiness Radhanath Swami said, earn with integrity and spend with compassion. How do you earn with integrity? The business of business is understanding the burning problem of your consumer. And then how do you get the real business, which is money out of that, is solving it in such a way that your customer cannot solve on his own without you. Number one is identifying and solving his burning problem. Jwalanta samasya, keval samasya nahi. Looking for is not just a problem, but the burning problem. And then every problem is a gift where there is a great opportunity. How do you become affordable, available, accessible? See, the model is called hassle premium. The business of doing business is identifying the hassle premium. The profit is an outcome which should never be a goal. The purpose is always the goal. Either are you trying to reduce the too much of complexity or time being taken by your consumer is identifying his problem and solving it. For example, Ola, Magic Bricks, now even IRCTC. Or you're reducing the effort of your customer, like Lenskart has done it now. Or you're reducing the confusion, uncertainty, and complexity, like Policy Bazaar and Trivago has done it. Or you're trying to make it extremely cost effective, like Oyo Xiaomi did. or you're giving a visual realization of an anticipated reality, or you're giving certain special convenience, finding in special skill set, skill services, which was earlier Urban Clap, now Urban Company, where he's giving you those skill sets. Or helping in vendor identification in business like Sulekha.com, India Mart, Trade India, Just Dial, they're helping in vendor identification. So basically, or operational convenience, like recently some of my mentees from IIT graduates, they made a device called Stand and Pee device for women. Now, Stand and Pee device, technically the cost of a product is less than 10 rupees, but they got this 80 crore worth of valuation even while they were in 4th year of their college. They looked for another new kind of a business problem, which they solved it. So you don't need to be Steve Jobs to build innovation. It just begins with identifying what is your customer struggling to solve today, what problem can you solve in their life in the larger ecosystem, and develop a different and a better way to solve that. Innovation is discovery driven. It's a learned skill. You can discover by doing that why analysis. There can be various innovations. Amazon is a sales and delivery channel, and there every innovation, whether being an online bookstore to becoming Kindle and then going to Prime services, Amazon Prime service, and then going to Amazon Go or service through drone, everything is centered around the consumer's burning problems. And when you start solving them, you build a better ecosystem of Jiva Jivasya Jivanam. When one Jiva is dependent on another Jiva for their own Jivan. So this is basically, that actually helps you build the ethical monopoly. There's something called monopoly, which everybody is trying to enter into, and the larger family businesses that are driving our country are also trying to build monopoly. But then there's something called ethical monopoly. And this is what is, when you're solving the consumer's problem in such a way that consumer doesn't want to leave you, and it solves the larger problems of the ecosystem. So the first step is identify the burning problem of your customer. And then that actually naturally gives you the blue ocean and takes you out of the red ocean. And the market wants you to be there with you. It's simple. See, you have to understand the existing data. You have to understand how the internal stakeholders, what are they saying, the pains and gaps in the buying process of your consumers, scanning all the interaction touch points. You've got to understand how the follow me home research of going to your consumer, how is he using your product, doing their interviews, understanding what they're doing right now. That's called completely understanding the ecosystem of everybody around you, all the stakeholders. The moment you do that, when you list all the stakeholders, identify the problems of all the stakeholders, that's when you create YouTube. YouTube is solving the problems of content creator, content consumer, the advertiser, the YouTube in itself. So everybody grows. If you look at eBay, Car Dekho, Amazon, Facebook, Ola, OLX, they're platforms. They're those platforms which have actually taken care of larger ecosystem instead of doing a transactional business. Mal do, paisa lo. Mal do, paisa lo. That's transactional. Then there is something called, which is platform which looks after everybody around you. When you look after everybody around you, then it becomes their collective responsibility to make sure that you also grow with them. अगर कोई spare part manufacturer है गाड़ी का और वो मैकेनिक को साथ में नहीं लेगा, he'll not be able to grow. He has to take care of that mechanic who will actually be an influencer. If there's a tractor manufacturer, he has to take care of the mechanics, he has to take care of the other influencer. एक गांव के अंदर कोई सरपंच है, banker है, loan देने वाला, there are many stakeholders around you. It's not just you and the kisan. It's not just you and the farmer. You've got to take care of the larger ecosystem. That's called Jiva Jivasya Jivanam. So simple model is that the moment you enter into one of my mentees started a company called Pani Puri, something like panipuri.com. And then now it will take a long time for me to actually give you the entire model, but a lot of C2C brands, which is consumer to consumer, where the seller, the buyer, and the model, everybody's taken care of. One of my mentees started a Dial-a-Doc on a similar model. See, if you look at the great organizations which are called problem-solving products, PSP, then they don't need advertising. People like Tesla, Amazon, IBM, Apple, Alibaba, Microsoft, Netflix, or Snapchat, Google, Facebook, WhatsApp, YouTube, they don't need advertising. You don't see them. When did you last saw Microsoft advertising about the product? But when you build a PSP, which is called a problem-solving product, looking after the larger ecosystem, you are not driven by the pricing, positioning, and process performance. You're driven by the problem. And when you're driven by the problem, profit is only an outcome. Profit doesn't become the goal. So my idea is simple. The business of doing business is understanding the larger problem of the ecosystem, solving it in such a way that ecosystem wants you to be with them, and then the entire ecosystem, for them, it becomes their collective responsibility to help you grow. Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Shopakicha Pandita Samadarshana. So Pandita, who is Samadarshana, who looks after everybody, all the stakeholders with a lot of respect. Vidya Vinay, he has a lot of Vinay, the Vinamrata. And then he looks after the bigger picture instead of doing transactional business, mal do, paisa lo. And then it becomes the collective ecosystem who helps you grow. Then you're not alone. Everybody has joined with you in partnership for your growth.
Thank you so much. That was so lovely. You explained that it's about business, or business is not business, but it is about understanding the problems of the consumer, trying to build an ecosystem where you collectively grow. Your problem is the problem of the customer that you're trying to serve. And in that process, if you generate wealth, if you generate profit, that's a natural outcome, but not the goal of your business, if I understood correctly. So thank you so much for that summary. Now, Radhanath Swami Maharaj, I will move on to you. Now, you have among your followers the rich and the mighty, and the poor and the meek, from American capitalists to Russian communists, from Bollywood celebrities to writers and authors. Is there anything common among these people who are so diverse?
Unity and diversity is a very beautiful concept that more than ever before the world needs to appreciate and apply because it is a reality. There is so much diversity in this world. There's different religions, there's different social systems, there's different castes and classes. There's so many ways in which we are diverse. But what is the unity that is there that can actually bring us together to appreciate, respect, and empower one another? Yes, wherever I go in the world, I find that there are people who are really striving to be good and to do good, who are striving in their careers, in their family lives, to earn and gain as much as possible with a sense of integrity. And then there are people from all these different parts of the world, from all these different diverse backgrounds, whether it be religion, social, or caste, or male, female, different races. There are people who live with fear, with arrogance, with greed, with disrespect, and that is a problem. So to appreciate the diversity that is there in the world, even if we may not agree, it's important that we learn to harmonize where there can be unity. And yes, I see wonderful saintly people who are living in village huts, and I see wonderful saintly people who are billionaires overseeing international corporations. I see wonderful saintly people who are monks, who have nothing, who are housewives. I see wonderful people in all these different categories of life because of their sincerity and their values. And I also see greed and arrogance and selfishness in people living in little village huts, in people who are billionaires, in people who have PhDs, or people who have very meager education. So yes, greatness is in the character and the values that we hold sacred. And wherever that may be, the world has become, through technology and through internet and through international trade, it's become a world community. And we really do need to unify within all of our diversity through respect and through values.
Thank you so much. So you talked about unity and diversity, and what I understood from that is no matter whether you're a prince or a pauper, you are subject to greed or monkhood. It's a choice that you make what you want to pursue. So thank you so much for that. Ajay Piramal ji, we know you as a billionaire, but I call this, you know, the glory, but not the story. So were there any setbacks in your life on the way to being a billionaire? And on your way up there, was there ever a chance where you had to choose, let's say, people or planet over profit? So could you give some examples from your life? Sir, you're on mute.
I don't know of anybody who has not faced challenges in their life. Whosoever it is, I know Radhanath Maharaj has faced so many challenges before what he's come here to. And if you look at anybody and everybody in the world has to go through challenges. So just like, I mean, if you take the example of Krishna, can you imagine the challenges that he faced in his life? He was born in a prison. He was attacked by how many demons, and all throughout his life he had to fight. Or you look at Ram. He was sent into a forest. He was separated. His wife was kidnapped. Ultimately his sons left him. So everyone, and if you look at anybody who's successful, do you think Mr. Narendra Modi has not had problems? So first, let's recognize that to ask a question, I would say that everybody's life has gone through problems, and so has mine. So as I often say, my father passed away when I was 24 within 30 seconds. I mean, he had a heart attack and just passed away. After that, we were in the textile business, and my elder brother was there, and he passed away at the age of 34. And we had a strike in the business, and I had to manage the business, which was really going down because of a strike. There is no, you just consume all the funds that you have, and I had to look after uh, my brother who passed away, his 3 children. Youngest was 2 years old. My mother, who had become a widow at below the age of 50, and a business which was struggling. So those were challenges, and those were difficult times, but we've come out. So everybody has to go through challenges, and there are so many more. I mean, it's not that all of us have to go through challenges. We have to face them. The other good thing I found is that you have challenges, but there's always opportunities which are available. And that's what you have to look for. When we were struggling in the textile business, as I said, because of the strike, that's when we started looking for other businesses. And that's how we entered pharmaceuticals. And that was where we got success. So every one of us goes through challenges. So life is like, I was reading somewhere and interesting, it's like an ECG. When you take an ECG, it has these ups and downs, the waves. The day the ECG becomes flat, that means your life is gone. So similarly, to say, I mean, there will be ups and downs in everybody's life. Today, you can see in the world, so many people are suffering because of what's happening in COVID. So they are going through challenges. I know that there are others who have really benefited from this. But by and large, people are going through challenges. The point is, how do we manage to live in these challenges? How do we, so that we come out winners at the end when the challenge goes? The good news is that for every bad, there will be a good time. It's like the waves in the sea. They go up and they come down. So similarly, good things will come down, but bad things will also go away. So that's what I would say.
That's life is a cycle. It goes up and down. That's very beautiful thought. विवेक बिंद्रा जी, आपसे क्वेश्चन है, ये जो बड़ा बिजनेस करना होता है उसके लिए क्या चाहिए होता है? बड़ा दिमाग या बड़ा दिल?
बड़ा दिमाग या बड़ा दिल? Basically, बड़ा दिमाग या बड़ा दिल से ज्यादा what's important is सही mindset. The millennium leaders of 2020 are not those who build the mindset behind the number set. The millennium leaders of 2020 will not be those who will generate great fruits, but the ones who will actually build the roots behind the fruits. For conscious capitalism, what I would say, what is important is not the content, but the intent behind the content. Not the foreground, but the background behind the foreground. So what's needed to build this a great organization, Bada business? Leadership is about inspiring the actions. गुरूर में इंसान को कभी इंसान नहीं दिखता, जैसे छत पे चढ़ जाओ तो अपना मकान नहीं दिखता. ऐसे ही, it's very simple. Krishna says, "Ahankar vimud atma karta ham iti manyate." A businessman who is filled with all ahankar, and he thinks karta ham iti manyate. He manyate matlab मान लेता है वो, that I am the doer, मैं ही कर रहा हूँ सब कुछ. And the moment a person becomes so self-centered, then he will actually focus more on the valuables, not the values behind the valuables. So when you focus on the valuables, neither the values stay nor the valuables. But when you focus on the right values, the valuables come so fast you can't even manage. On the other side, even if the money comes without the goodness, what good is that money which is without goodness? So basically, bada business karne ke liye, building the right purpose is important. Because a team that is aligned behind the right purpose will move the mountains. अगर आप देखेंगे कि जब भी कोई purpose driven रहता है, he has an extra power that he can actually access to, which an ordinary man is not able to do it. So culture of any business is the right foundation for great future. See, winning is nice if you don't lose your integrity in the process. I learned so much in the first statement, earn with integrity. I got my ROI for my today's session that I came here. My understanding is, to build a great organization, you need great organizational belief. What is my organizational belief that I want to set? How will I get that? By establishing the right values. Then, how do you establish the right values? Step 2, what is your compelling, exciting story to talk about those values? Even Hitler had a compelling, exciting story कि तुम लोग आर्यन हो. You are extraordinary. तुम्हारा खून अलग है. He had that compelling, exciting story. When people talk about these stories, they can instill these values. पूरा जर्मनी खड़ा हो गया था दुनिया में. Germany is smaller than Uttar Pradesh in population. और हमारे यहाँ वैसे तो कुंभ मेला होता है, तो कुंभ मेले में जर्मनी हम ब्रेकफास्ट लंच में नहलाई देते हैं. इतना छोटा है जर्मनी, but it could actually control the entire world at one time. How did it do it? Because of the compelling, exciting story. So what is your story that you're telling to your internal, external stakeholders? And who will spread that story alone? You'll not be able to do it. You have to develop your Navratnas. Why did Akbar could conquer the entire country? Because of Navratnas, he could develop a great leadership. So where are your Navratnas? Have you identified your Navratnas who can spread your story well and actually execute it? Negative बात को फैलाने में मेहनत नहीं करनी पड़ती है, अपने आप फैल जाती है. Positive message को spread करने में बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ती है when you're trying to build an organizational culture. So basically, our values is the my value, my net worth. My value is the sum of my all values that I have. That will build my real value. That which value which people are looking for is the sum total of the internal values that I have. So great people have great values and great ethics. So if a brand will not live inside, if it doesn't live inside, it cannot thrive outside. So how do you change the belief system? How do you change that culture, that mindset? Very simple, like I shared with you. बहुत सारी कहावतें रहती हैं. वो कहते हैं अब पछताए होत क्या जब चिड़िया चुग गई खेत. पछताना चाहिए, नहीं तो चिड़िया दोबारा चुग जाएगी खेत. हम गलत कहावतों पे डिपेंड करने लग जाते हैं. वो है ना, द कैट गोज ऑन अ पिलग्रिमेज आफ्टर ईटिंग 100 रैट्स, 1000 रैट्स. वो क्या है कि 100 चूहे खा के बिल्ली हज को चली. अब बिल्ली हज को जा रही है, उसको जाने देना चाहिए, उसको मत रोको, नहीं तो वो 200 चूहे और खा लेगी. You got to understand that which is the right belief system, which is the right culture that we got to actually accept. Sometimes we see, if you look at the entire UP and Bihar, everybody is looking for a government job. If you look at the entire Rajasthan and Gujarat, a lot of entrepreneurship is building up because of the social belief, people around us. So we tend to get influenced by the mantras and shakunis around us. Who should be our advisor is important is Lord Krishna, who gave advice to Arjuna with very less manpower, with very less resources of funds. The Pandavas could win over practically the ones who were in the kingdom for a very long time. Duryodhan बहुत time से उस समय kingdom को manage कर रहे थे. Still, by having the right advisor. So who is your advisor? What are the right values you're building? Compassion, collaboration, positivity, efficiency, innovation, creativity, focus on impact, keeping things simple, consistency, dependability, loyalty, teamwork, learning, excellence, innovation. So there are a lot of values that you can actually think of building them. Microsoft has a very important value as an integral part of their organization called CSR, environment, trustworthiness. Facebook says focus on impact, be open, and build social value. So what you believe is what you receive. It's not by fluke. Krishna says yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajyatante kalevaram. जैसा जैसा स्मरण करेगा वैसा वैसा बनता जाएगा. So what is important is your mindset will deliver the outcomes. So what should be the organizational belief? Who? Second is, what is my compelling, exciting story? Third is, who in my team will help me spread? I'll repeat the three questions. What is my organizational belief? Second is, what are the core values and compelling, exciting story behind it? And third is, who in my team will help me spread? Then you can actually convert a great organization, which is not just an organization, but a great mission. And then simply at last, what I'd like to request, every morning, do a review improvement cycle for yourself. What went well, what went wrong, what could be improved? Three questions, www.CBI. What went well last day, yesterday? What went wrong yesterday? What could be improved now, today? And then, of course, when you do that, follow a model called RISIMIS, Ritual of 60 Minutes Solitude, RISIMIS, Ritual of 60 Minutes Solitude. Every morning, spend some time practicing with all sincerity, practicing of spirituality, 60 minutes solitude that will help you build insight. Second is improvement cycle. And third is when you go back to sleep, learn to practice the gratitude journal. I am grateful for, I am grateful to. I am grateful for, you can put a name. I am grateful to an action or a situation. These simple practices, actually, I like to speak more on actionables. How do you implement it? I normally like to speak more implementable strategies that can be immediately taken back. But thank you very much. I think extended my back to you. Over to you, Mr. Rahul. Thank you.
नहीं, बिल्कुल आपने बिल्कुल अच्छे तरीके से समझाया. ना बड़ा दिमाग चाहिए, ना बड़ा दिल चाहिए, बड़ा वैल्यू सिस्टम चाहिए. और बड़ा वैल्यू सिस्टम बनाने के लिए आपको एक बिलीफ चाहिए, एक जिस बिलीफ से आपका वैल्यू बिल्ड होगा और उस वैल्यू को इम्बाइब करने वाले और लोग आएंगे जो आपका मैसेज स्प्रेड करेंगे. तो आपने बड़े संक्षेप में और बड़े अच्छे तरीके से उस बात को समझा दिया. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर दैट. Now we are in the last 10 minutes of the session. So what I will do is I will pick on some audience question. Swami ji, here is a question for you. And my understanding of that question is it's basically talking about jiva, jivanam, jivasyam. That means a jiva is eating other jivas. Now the question exactly is, in the nature of any business, is it given that there would be someone or the other who would be impacted negatively for profit of the one? That means when you're doing a business, someone or the other is going to be negatively impacted by you doing business. Without sidestepping, without stepping on the rival, can conscious capitalism be achieved? So a difficult question, but over to you.
Thank you. It's a very important question. I'll give a very simple reply that obviously in business there's competition, and it's inevitable that to build ourselves up, whoever's competing with us may take a loss accordingly. That's just what business is. In many ways, that's what life is. But we should not unnecessarily hurt people. We should actually be well-wishers, even in competition. In competition, there can be compassion. Where we're struggling to be the best we can be. We are competitive, but not motivated by greed or arrogance or meanness. We should try to balance this competitive necessity with a spirit of respect and with actually being a well-wisher.
Yeah, thank you so much for that explanation. Ajay ji, the next question is for you, and this is again going back to whether capitalism provides a level playing field. So Samruddhi is asking, it is common belief that capitalism is the only system that will guarantee economic progress and equal opportunities for all. But we are moving towards corny capitalism at a very rapid pace. And the motivation is now solely making profits. How do we then find space for conscious capitalism when the system itself prevents us from doing so? अजय जी आप म्यूट पे हैं.
Actually, I would not entirely agree with the questioner, because it is not that there is no conscious capitalism. If you look at some of the largest, look at the US, in which Bill Gates has started the Giving Pledge. They have now contributed the entire wealth that has been created for doing good. And there are so many people in India who are also doing that. So there are many people who have contributed a major portion of their wealth to do good. So to say that conscious capitalism is not there is not, I would not say, is the correct interpretation. There are people who are doing good, and we have to recognize it is not that you cannot do good unless you have capital. I mean, there is nobody, how do you spend? There are people who are not, say, do not have enough funds and therefore they need help. How do they get themselves funds? Either they work, that means you have to work in a company, or you have to do some business, or you have to create wealth that way. Or very often it's the governments who will spend. How do governments spend? Governments can only spend by getting taxation. Who will they tax? They will tax the people who are making money. So to assume that you can do everything good without having any capital is just not possible. I mean, so we must recognize it is being done consciously, which is right, or which is, let's say, the dharmic way of building capital, but that is important. So first of all, it cannot be, that is why I think it's important. It is, and creating wealth and doing good is important. It is not that or. You can't do one or the other. And I find this constantly. There are so many people who are in the social sector who feel that creating wealth is a bad thing. If you do that, let me tell you, your social sector cannot survive. So I think we have to recognize that very clearly. And even in business, when you're in business, you have to run the business well. I mean, therefore, as I think Maharaj also said, in competition, your role is to see that you get ahead of competition. You can't say that competition and okay, now you also come with me. There you have to do, that is doing business well. And that is in a capitalist society, that the people who are performing well will do better. I mean, can you imagine that you have an airline and there is some airline which is doing very well, but it is actually affecting the other airlines? So does it mean that, no, you stop doing well and see that the others come up? No, some will die. That's how it is.
Sure. So you did talk about the giving pledge that was there in the US, and you have not talked about the good work that you are doing. So why don't you, I'll hold on to that. Why don't you talk about some good work that you yourself are doing as philanthropist? And that is, I will again repeat, that is possible only because of the wealth that you have generated through your business.
I mean, so, okay, now let me tell you, for instance, businesses this year, not only ours, every business is affected because of the COVID. Therefore, I can see that the contributions coming to the social organizations have come down. They are all suffering. Okay, so we work in education, we work in health, and we work in providing clean drinking water, and of course, in other things like providing food and all. Our philosophy has been that for any contribution, for anybody to make a difference in India, you have to first of all find innovative solutions. We have been 70 years since independence, and yet some of the basic problems are not solved. So we believe that innovation can be done only in a private environment. A government cannot do innovation because by definition, innovation means there is risk, there will be mistakes. So therefore, we do innovative ways of doing education, of health. To do anything in India, you have to do it in scale. So we do it in scale, on scale. And so now we are actually treating millions of kids in government schools, and you have to do it in partnership. And we do partnership with government, with other large foundations. So that's the basis. So what are we doing in education? We're looking at how we can work to see that learning levels in schools, in government schools, are improved. That's one. The second thing is what we are doing in health is to see how infant mortality, maternal mortality is improved. How can we create a whole system of creating health records for the nation? How do we then provide clean drinking water to people? Because if you see in our country, there's a lot of arsenic. And now a big emphasis of ours is on what are the aspirational districts. The Prime Minister has identified 115 districts in the country which are the most backward, and he calls they are the aspirational districts. So out of these, in 30 of these aspirational districts, we are working in partnership with Niti Aayog and the government to see how we can improve the education and improve the health. So that's some of the work we are doing.
Thank you so much, Piramalji. Swamiji, we normally expect industrialists like Ajay Piramalji to do some kind of CSR, some kind of social good, but one doesn't normally expect that from a monk. Another point which Piramalji was raising, can you do good without capital? Why don't you talk something about the hospital that you have built and the Govardhan Eco Village? How did you manage to do it? You are a monk.
I was speaking about unity and diversity. When monks can see and respect and appreciate the value of what doctors do and business people do and educators do, and when all such people can also appreciate what a monk could do, then we bring out the best in each other. It's like we have this body, and the body has different organs. Each organ has a color, has a shape, and has a function that's unique. The kidneys cannot do what the pancreas does, and the pancreas cannot do what the brain does, and the brain cannot do what the heart does. A healthy body is when each part of the body recognizes and appreciates what each other part is able to do. And they all serve together one another. If you hurt your little toe, every part of your body will send healing energy to that little toe if our body's healthy. So similarly, monk, I haven't had a bank account since 1969. So I don't really have any money. I don't have any property. I have nothing in my name. But I do have, by the grace of my guru, Srila Prabhupada, I have some knowledge and some inspiration to share with others. So that's where I can contribute to society. And we, at our hospital, we have doctors, we have administrators, we have carpenters, we have architects, we have nurses, and they're functioning very much in harmony with people who are in business and industry and education. And we could all be the best we could be and offer the greatest service to society when we harmonize with one another.
Sure. Thank you so much. Dr. Bindra, we are overshooting time, but there is a question for you. And this question is about changing the ecosystem. So the question is, how can a conscious consumer's inflow of cash in the market amend the business ecosystem? So I'll repeat, how can a conscious consumer's inflow of cash in the market amend the business ecosystem? Would it lead to the emergence of better social entrepreneurship ventures starting up? So that's the question.
See, in any case, in any ways, the success of consumer first and staying close to the consumer is always the foundation of the business. All the great businesses have done, who have actually built the greatness, have been very, very close to the consumer. Finding in ways and opportunity, how does your consumer become successful is always important. And plus, then there can be different models and ways. Since topic today is about conscious capitalism, because I'll say, while driving your business, the strategy, values are not the strategy. The real comparative advantage in any business is only one word, which is the values. The Tata Group, if you look at them, values have been their biggest comparative advantage. Going in detail of the question may take some time, but giving you one example that how, if you make it convenient and easy for your consumer to shell out their money and to absorb and take the product and consume the product, if you can make that easy for him and building the values around making it convenience for the consumer can become also a great comparative advantage. I'll give you my example. I was in Dhawan few days ago. और मैं ISKCON temple से एक रिक्शा लिया and I wanted to go to a place which is at 800 meters. ये थोड़ा अच्छा लगेगा आपको जान के. This rickshaw wala was trying to overcharge and asked for 200 rupee when I was sitting alone. I said, थोड़ा ज़्यादा मांग रहे हो आप? बोला हाँ. I said, what is it for? बोला recovery कर रहे हैं. He was from Eastern UP. I said, क्या recovery कर रहे हैं? बोला आपका बड़ा बिजनेस का कोर्स खरीदे थे. ये हमारा चौथा रिक्शा है. अभी हम एंटरप्रेन्योर बन गए. कोई मोबाइल ऐप बताइए कितना चक्का घूमेगा, उसका हमारे मोबाइल में पता चल जाए तो चक्का घूमने पे दूसरा रिक्शा वाला से हम पैसा ले लें तो हम लगाएंगे अपना कैपिटल और उससे लेंगे रोज का पैसा. इससे हम बड़ा एंटरप्रेन्योर हो जाएंगे और मथुरा, गोवर्धन, राधा कुंड, श्याम कुंड सब जगह हमारा रिक्शा चलेगा. Now, reaching out to the middle of the pyramid and bottom of the pyramid and understanding with the vision that if I can actually serve at least 1/3 of the population of my city has been the area of focus for me for my consumer success. So foundations are the right values. The valuables are only outcome which are easy, which can easily be driven, and people don't pay money for the time you spend with them, for the hard work that you do for them. People pay you money for the value you create for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we are well short our time. We are 7 minutes overshot, but I will give you 30 seconds each to give one last message to our audience. 30 seconds each. Maharaj, going with you, or you would like to go to the last? Maybe you go the last. Maybe you go first because Ajay ji is on phone, I see.
I want to express my deep gratitude to each and every one of you. And it's such a valuable opportunity that we all have in our lives to do something that's meaningful, fulfilling, wonderful, and beneficial for ourselves, our family, and for the world. And let us embrace those values and build our life on the foundation of those values.
Thank you so much. Bindra ji, parting words. What is your advice for us?
हर पंछी की अपनी उड़ान की सीमा होती है. I think I've already spoken what I wanted to speak. Hearing His Holiness Radhanath Swami is always nectar. And over to Shri Ajay Piramal ji from your side, Rahul ji, giving back to him, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So Ajay Piramal ji, you have the last word on this. So what is your final advice to these young MBAs and some professors who have joined in as well, and people like myself who work in the corporate? So what is your final advice to us about conscious capitalism?
I think conscious capitalism means that you have to really, first of all, it's not you cannot say that you don't want to do well in business because I'm going to do good. First you have to do well and then you can do, and you have to still do good. They are not separate from each other. That's what I'm trying to keep on emphasizing, because I feel that the tone of the conversation is that it is either or. They are not mutually exclusive. They are both together. So each one has to first succeed in whatever their profession is, whatever their business is, and that's how they will then they can do good. So you need strength to do good as well. So I would say that that's important. And for that, they have to, I mean, really, I feel to have the courage to follow the path less traveled. They have to be ready to accept which are highs and lows in life. They must be willing, they must associate with good people. I think that's very important, whether they are their mentors, whether they are their gurus, whether they're their advisors. They're good people that they have to work. They have to work hard. There is no substitute for working hard, and they have to be humble. And at the end of the day, they have to keep doing their work and have faith that there is a higher power which will also help them out. If they do all this, I think there's a good chance of success.
Thank you. So if I were to summarize, Maharaj, you told us that you need to be conscious or aware of where you are heading as an individual, bring that into your business, only then you can succeed. Ajay Piramal ji, you said that consciousness and consciousness and capitalism, these are not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand. You need to generate capital in order to be able to do good with that capital. And Bindra ji, you talked to us about the Bada value system that you need to create. So thank you so much for this beautiful session. We thoroughly enjoyed it. Over to you, Ashna.
Thank you so much, Rahul. I would like to thank all our panelists and our moderator for this wonderful and insightful session. As a token of our gratitude, we made a contribution in your names to a foundation known as Say Trees that's working on tree plantation in India. So agroforestry saplings have been planted, which are going to change the life of a farmer in Karnataka. Thank you so very much. And now I would like to call on Professor Padmini Srinivasan to deliver a vote of thanks. Ma'am, you're on mute.
Yeah, conscious capitalism is a very, very interesting topic. I think it needs to be explored in greater depth. I always leave this thought with my students on accountability, and I ask this question of them. When I say a business is accountable or a person is accountable, how far that accountability goes? To whom are they accountable to? Is it only themselves, their family, their larger society, or current generation or future generation? So the accountability piece is very, very important, and that will probably determine, the trusteeship model and hopefully leading to conscious capitalism. And I very much appreciate Mr. Ajay Piramal for saying that shareholder value creation is important. And I also always add this as enlightened shareholder value creation. Of course, both go hand in hand together. You create value, then you can spend that value. And at the individual level, it's very important that we earn with integrity and spend with compassion. I think that's a beautiful message to all our students. And of course, Dr. Bindra's own, a bundle of energy and a lot of insights we got from his. You were too fast for me to catch many of the things. So I think his problem-solving ability that he spoke about, and the purpose-driven business, I think all these are very, very important aspects for all our future managers and leaders of the business school and students and others. So thank you very much for taking this time out and addressing all our students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, and thank you, Rahul, for moderating this wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Lastly, I would like to call upon Sasi Kumar Velatumi, the Secretary of Forum for Industrial Interaction, to deliver the closing note for Vista 2020.
Thank you, Ashna. Thank you, Mr. Ajay Piramal, Maharaj Radhanath Swami Ji, Dr. Vivek Bindra, and our moderator, Mr. Rahul Singh, for such an insightful discussion on a topic which is the need of the day. We could not have asked for a better closing session to Vista 2020. Vista 2020, in its 20th edition, was a complete weekend immersion for students, community, and professionals alike, with 25,000 virtual participation from 100 plus colleges across the globe. This year's Vista, also the first ever online Vista, was a big way of success with 15 plus eminent speakers across domains and sectors, 10 plus workshops, 20 plus events, and thoughtful panel discussions. We had intriguing talks delivered by world famous eminent personalities from across industries, including Dr. Raghuram Rajan, Mr. N.R. Narayanamurthy, Dr. Kiran Bedi, Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar, Mr. Vishwanathan Anand, and many more. And of course, the eminent speakers of today's session who impacted the crowd with rich insights. Workshops are facilitated by Google, LinkedIn, Ogilvy, Zerodha, and many others, saw enthusiastic participation throughout. We would like to thank our title sponsor, ITW Consulting, Platinum sponsor, Prestige Group, Gold sponsor and Health and Wellness partner, Sakra World Hospital, Wireless sponsor, ICICI Bank, Learning partner, CET King, News channel partner, Mirror Now, Real estate partner, Salapuria Sattva, Adventure partner, Victorinox, Media partner, Business Standard, Knowledge partner, Bodhi Room, Simulation partner, Biz Games, Campus Outreach partner, Intenshala, and Coupon partner, Havish, for partnering with us and making Vista 2020 possible. We would also like to thank IMB Alumni Association, or Alumni Connect, for their association with us over the years. I also take this opportunity to thank the constant support from the IIM Bangalore's director, PGP chair, PGP office, professors, communications and IT department, student affairs council, all the student clubs, committees, and the whole Vista team for their constant efforts for the past 4 months, despite the pandemic, and making 20th year of Vista one of its kind and a very big success. Lastly, a huge shout out to all the participants and attendees for your interest and love. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sasi. After 2 days of learning and growing through some of the most amazing speakers, workshops, and events, we have a small gift for you to unwind this Saturday night. Grab some popcorn and join us for fun and laughter in a comedy-filled night with Rahul Subramanian. Tune in at 9:30 through the link mentioned in the chat. See you on the other side.